Whoa, whoa, whoa. Before you go any further, I feel like I should give y'all a quick warning. Don't worry, it probably won't take too long. Well, here goes. Warning, the following video you're about to watch contains voice acting done by 3 people. However, only 1 out of the 3 is an actual voice actor with years of experience in the field that knows what she's doing. The other 2, one of which being me, are not experienced at all and are doing this with none of the right gear, skills, or experience, as should be obvious. I ask that you not be too harsh on us, or if you are, at least don't be harsh on me. You can tease her all you like, I'm fine with that. Encourage it even. Moral of the story, the quality of voice acting is absolutely going to fluctuate, so bear with me. Also, the following story plot thing was completely improvised without any planning or research. As such, we may sound extremely dumb in what we are saying, which I'm honestly fine with. Man, talking is hard, you know? Especially that fast. Sure, I sped it up in editing and spoke kinda slow in the actual recording, but it's the delusions that count, you know? Anyways, enjoy.
Water is wet. I think water is wet. You can prove me wrong using basic science.
She refuses to see how harmful her ideals really are. For the sake of everyone that believes in the truth, I have to convince her. A sea of truth and a web of lies, our eternal bond and unbreaking ties. To reveal deception that I won't allow, this class trial starts now.
Water is wet. I think water is wet. You can prove me wrong using basic science.
No, that's wrong! While I can see why you may think that water is wet, that is a completely incorrect fact, for you see water itself is not wet, and I can prove it.
Let's see. The answer that proves that water isn't wet is...
This is my answer! The physical state of water itself can't be wet, because it has no physical state. It's a liquid. Therefore, water itself is not wet, it simply makes the things it comes into contact with wet.
That doesn't sound quite right. I know that you and everyone else has been led to believe that the natural state of water means that water itself isn't wet. And while that isn't wrong, the natural state of water itself is a lie. I'll show you. Something that shows them I'm not totally insane, but how the world has warped our minds. This is my declaration! The natural state of water doesn't exist to begin with, and was a lie formed by the government to make people believe that the government-funded science is correct, leading people to put their faith into the government so they can be manipulated. If you continue to believe the science that is backed up by the government, you will be tricked into believing the government's hypocritical ideals. And to further my reasoning as to why water is wet, it cannot make things wet unless water itself is wet.
She's relentless in her pursuit. I'll have to kick things up a notch if I want to get past this hurdle.
It seems like your opponent has much to say. In that case, it's time for a rebuttal showdown. You'll go through your opponent's argument piece by piece, slicing through their words until you can find the critical statement. Once you've found that, choose the correct blade to cut through it and destroy their argument.
The natural state of water doesn't exist to begin with, and was a lie formed by the government to make people believe that the government-funded science is correct.
I'll have to cut that argument short. You say the government published findings are lies used to manipulate us, but your argument has 2 major flaws. The first being that there are many theories founded in the past, such as the theory of gravity and relativity, all supported by the government, that have been shown to be true. The government may not be perfect, but they have endorsed numerous publications that have only helped to better our understanding of the world, while not manipulating us. And the same is true for water. Second being... This is my answer! You yourself are not a scientist or expert, so So really, any statement you make on science that goes against previously established facts have to be taken with a grain of salt, lest they are backed by numerous amounts of evidence.
What? So you're just gonna dismiss everything else I have to say? You know I'm right! Or maybe you don't, and the government has gotten you for good! Water is wet! It's wet! And you know it is! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Looks like she's going down the rabbit hole. I'll have to put an end to this the only way I know how.
Oh no! Your opponent's gone into a state of madness and won't listen to reason. This seems like the best time for a bullet time battle. Match up your rebuttals with the beat to destroy your opponent's arguments one by one. Then select the final truth bullet and deal the finishing blow when they're in a corner.
There's already so much distrust in the government from other things. Telling facts about water wouldn't make us trust them anymore.
Then what about how water has to be wet in order to make other things wet?
Making something wet implies it was dry in the first place, and water is never dry.
Shit! Now you're just running in circles. Water couldn't have been dry. It has to be wet. But no, if it's wet, then that means it was dry. No. No!
Water isn't, hasn't been, and never will be wet, and this proves it. This is where it ends! Water is not a solid, therefore there's nothing about water that can physically get wet.
Ah! How could this be? How could I have been this wrong?
I'm sorry, but you left me no choice. You think I wanted to prove you wrong? No, but I couldn't let you go on believing a false narrative. And I'm gonna finish this case and prove once and for all that water isn't wet. Let's review the entire case from the beginning. After that, it'll be clear to everyone that water isn't wet. Here's everything that happened in this case. It all started out with a female woman, codenamed Tretbo. She had been browsing through too many internet forums recently and had gotten sucked into the web of conspiracy theories. It was then that she falsely started to believe water was wet, when in fact, it simply makes things wet. It wasn't long before she came to me and tried to convince me of her falsehood beliefs around water being wet. It was then that I tried to correct her, saying how water isn't wet, it only makes things wet, as it is a liquid that is always in that liquefied state, at least when making things wet. But she wasn't done yet. She then brazenly tried to prove me wrong, stating how water had no natural state and that it was just a lie by the government to make people put their faith in them. I quickly shut down this argument though, as there are multiple previous findings that the government has endorsed, such as the theory of gravity and relativity, that have all proved to be true. Then, to further drive the point home, I pointed out that she herself was not a scientist, and that any claim she makes should be absolutely taken with a grain of salt. This rebuttal caused her to go into a panic, wherein I was forced to counter every last one of her arguments until I could deliver the final blow. And said final blow was bringing it all back to the beginning. Water is not a solid, so it can't physically get wet, only make things wet. This is the truth of this case, and how a misguided young woman was led astray by a very false piece of information. And the final conclusion we can reach from this is... water is not wet. Sorry, Tretbo, you're all washed up. Life is strange. We can't choose our path in life, but we can choose the choices that lead us down that path. Hope or despair, either way doesn't change who we are. All that matters is that we have faith in what we choose and who we choose to be. That's really all we can do. Strive for a better future where we can feel confident in our decisions and ideals.
Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? This literally makes no sense in relation to what just happened.
Tretbo, you're ruining my dramatic closing monologue! Granted, I'm completely BSing my way through this and have no idea what I'm saying or trying to convey, but still!
Come up with a better one and maybe I won't say anything.
Meanie.
So, what do you think? Personally, I think that came out very well, though I'm probably biased. Regardless of that, a huge shout out and thanks to the two people who helped me with this little project. I may have done the editing, but it was their voices that helped it come to life. But more than that, the biggest thanks goes to the coolest cucumber herself, who was responsible for all those narration lines that sounded better than all the rest. How dare she steal my spotlight like that? I definitely recommend checking out her channel, as you can witness her amazing voice acting feats in larger quantities there. Plus, there won't be two novices distracting you from the immersion of her voice there, so that's already a plus. For real though, this was a lot of fun to act out, and it was honestly a blast to edit. Really hoping I can do more of these soon, because editing projects like this never fails to make me happy. Anyways, enough of my rambling. Till next we meet again, I'm out. Whee!
しゃぶっても仕方ねえや憧れた夢なんだけヒーローになりたいの願い口にするあいにくばかに続けるとするはないよ